Hello, Zcash community, and in particular, the Zcash Community Advisory Panel voters who are going to be determining who will fill the 2 slots in the Zcash Community Grants Committee. I am extremely honored to be here talking to you, and I want to thank you for your time listening to this video message. My name is Paul Brigner. I'm the Chief Policy and Regulatory Officer at ZODL, the Zcash Open Development Lab. I've been in the Zcash ecosystem for quite some time. I think it may be 5 years or so, and I've been in cryptocurrency prior to that for a few more years, working at trade associations and in academia. Prior to that, I guess my entire time in DC has been about 25 years where I've been working in tech policy. I've worked on telecom, media, and internet policy over that time. Prior to that, I was a software developer for 10 years. So I bring technical expertise to what I do. I still code, and I especially code a lot more lately with the assistance of AI. So I bring that technical experience to what I do here in DC as I advocate for Zcash. And hopefully you all are familiar with that. If not, please check out my X posts and you'll see all of my activities there. This is unprepared. I am not reading from a script, and this is honestly not with a lot of preparation. I wanted you to hear me authentically and to be able to hear how I think about things and how I want to interact with the community, and if I'm elected, how I would interact with my fellow committee members. So I'm going to look at the questions now that have been posed, and I'm going to try to make sure I've covered all of this material in real time with you, unedited. So the questions are, ZCG receives 52,500 ZEC per year. A year ago, that was worth $2,625,000. Now it is worth about $24 million per year. What should change, if anything, about how ZCG does its work? Thank you, Zuko, for that question. The second one is, what's Zcash's biggest opportunity right now? The third is, if you could change one thing about Zcash, what would it be and why? So thank you, Dismat, and thank you, Frank Braun, as well, for these questions. So I'm going to start with what should change. Well, a lot has changed, as Zuko points out, and I've been on the front row of this as I've been advocating for this in DC, but also as a part of the former ECC team and now part of the ZODL team. It is truly amazing what has happened over the course of just less than a year as we are gaining incredible traction. And from my perspective, where I sit, I'm seeing that traction firsthand in Washington, D.C. Just yesterday, in fact, I was with a group of crypto lobbyists and other advocates doing a fly-in with Digital Currency Group, DCG. And I have never experienced such a warm welcome and for so many people to be open to the messages that we were delivering about financial privacy in crypto. It was just a great experience. So I'm seeing this firsthand. I've seen the change that's occurred in just the general population and how people are feeling about privacy. There was also a new Harris poll released by DCG yesterday explaining this. Again, check my X post for details on those things. So the question is, what should change with regard to how ZCG does its work? Well, my thinking in real time here, not super prepared, I'm just going to tell you how I feel, is that, I think ZCG has done an amazing job. And I have personally benefited from that in my activities. I have actually applied for ZCG grants, received them, and I have delivered on them. And there's just one recently that I just received, and I will deliver on that, regardless, of anything that ever happens with my position here in ZCG. I am just so thankful for that support, and I know many others are too. So I don't honestly have a lot to criticize on ZCG. I want to continue to make it better. And from that perspective, I guess I would just point out this opportunity that I think we have in the ecosystem is to gain adoption, gain visibility, gain awareness, and do it fast. There is a special opportunity politically And given my position, I'm extremely attuned to that, such that we have, regardless of what you think about politics, to be honest, I hate politics, and I'm not a licensed or registered lobbyist. I don't consider that to be who I am. So I'm not a politico, although I'm here in DC and I interact with that, right? And I advocate. I'm an advocate. But there's a political moment that is favoring Zcash and favoring privacy, regardless of what you think about the current administration. And I want us to take advantage of that. I want us to take advantage of the regulatory window that we have with the SEC, the CFTC, OCC, all of the alphabet soup of agencies here in DC. Across the board, it is favorable to us. And this window will not stay open for long. I don't know how long that's going to be. But I do know that we need to take advantage of it, and we need to get adoption fast. There was a talk that Peter Van Valkenburgh gave at the last big Ethereum conference where he talked about what is required to ensure that privacy projects can actually be successful. And the thing that really stood out to me that he said was that it has to have scale. You have to grow to a certain size so that essentially you are unstoppable. And I don't think we're there yet. We're doing great, but we're not there. And I think ZCG can play an important role in helping us achieve that through funding activities that provide for the community to build faster, to expand, for greater awareness and greater adoption. So does that relate to any specific changes in the way ZCG operates? Maybe not. I think it's just perhaps a way of focusing on that opportunity and trying to deliver and push the community as hard as we can to ensure that we just embrace this opportunity and make sure that we are getting that awareness and getting that adoption in a very, very short period of time. I know that's the ethos that the ZODL team has. We're building as fast as we can. I know the other teams in the ecosystem are doing that as well. So I do think we're all on the same page here, which is fantastic. So that is my thought on that point. I think that answers the question for what is Zcash's biggest opportunity right now. I could not be happier and more excited about what I've seen with regard to the response to the vulnerability that was just identified in the last week, and how aggressive and how our teams, although very decentralized, have collaborated to address that and to come up with this Ironwood release that is going to be happening just within a few weeks now. It's unbelievable. So, I just think that we have so many talented people and so many amazing teams involved, and they're all firing on all cylinders, and they're collaborating to ensure that we are successful. So Ironwood, Tachyon, these things are going to help us fulfill the opportunity of making Zcash resilient, bulletproof, and allow it to scale. So in the big picture, those are the opportunities. And then we just have to deliver the adoption awareness and growing the ecosystem along with that. And then, then I see there's nothing stopping us from actually fulfilling the mission that I think we all share, is creating this unstoppable private digital cash, private encrypted money. So if there's one thing I could change about Zcash, what would it be and why? I guess I want you to know that I come at this with an extremely open mind, and this is separate from the things that ZODL may believe, others at ZODL may believe, or others in the ecosystem may believe. I don't feel that I am necessarily limited by any of that, such that I am completely open to where we should go next and what other things that we might do as a community. I just had a conversation yesterday that I think might be of interest, and it really surprised me a bit. I was actually speaking with the chief strategy officer at DCG, at this meeting that I attended, where it was a DCG organized fly-in in Washington, D.C. So we were at a reception talking, and he was explaining to me how he feels that we urgently need stable coins, a private stable, on Zcash. And, to be candid, that is not where my head was. I am much more of a crypto native thinker, and my ultimate hope for Zcash is to be a native crypto for the world, private digital cash that doesn't have any relation whatsoever to the existing financial system. The challenge is, though, that's a very, very probably, long way out. So, it's not that we can't, those of us who have this belief, we can do that, right? We will. But getting to that point where Zcash is native crypto for the whole world, I think that might be a while, right? And his perspective was that stables are just necessary in order for us to get there, and he wanted to see a private stable on Zcash. Well, as you all know, it's not the first time we've had that thought in the Zcash ecosystem. There are ZSAs and that have been developed and are on their way into the protocol. So it was interesting to have that conversation with him and to get that perspective and to think that, well, maybe I should think about that a little bit harder. And maybe there is a path for that. Maybe there is a way to have a private stable that is a little bit different than what Circle might be doing or what Alio might be doing, right? And we could do it in a Zcash way that would ensure that our chain doesn't get co-opted by a stable, and it actually benefits from adding that stable cryptocurrency to our chain as a token. So I thought you might find that interesting because I think, to me personally, it was a point where I had to stop and rethink what I had in mind initially, because I had initially thought maybe that wasn't such a good idea just because I am very focused on the crypto native vision. But as an interim step to help us move forward and to even push us faster so that we get this adoption and awareness that is needed, perhaps we do need a stable. And I will also point to another thing that happened yesterday. I was on a panel with Peter van Valkenburgh, and I really wanted to live stream this panel. I would have done it myself, but the organizers preferred that we keep it private because it was a private staff briefing. But one of the things Peter ended on in this panel and his comments was that someone asked a question, will there ever be a private stablecoin? And it was in the nature of, a true crypto native type private stablecoin. And he said that he sincerely hoped that there would be. And he explained that there's nothing legally preventing that, except for the fact that when you're holding a private stable, you have to have the backing of all the assets that support it, and that the banking systems that you're dealing with, like the whoever is holding all of those assets, may not be willing to allow you to do it. So there are challenges. There are these real world challenges dealing with TradFi and making it happen. But he said, we could do it. He sincerely hopes somebody would do it. They could do it. And, I'm thinking that we should do it. And but again, I want to do it in a way where we don't have a situation where we have the tail wagging the dog. I don't want a stablecoin to end up controlling our chain or controlling the protocol or the issuer having undue influence on us. So these are things that I think that the ZCG has to deeply understand. And as we move forward with this or with other proposals with a very open mind and communicating as a team, as a committee, we need to address. And the answers are certainly not straightforward. They're not obvious. They're complex. And that's what I want to do for this ecosystem. I want to help this ecosystem address those and devote our resources to initiatives that will help us achieve awareness, adoption, and become the unstoppable private encrypted money that we all want. So with that, I want to thank you. I think I've answered all of the questions And if there's things that I haven't covered, please point it out in the comments. I will do another video. And again, thank you for your consideration. It would be my greatest honor to serve this community in the role as a Zcash Community Grants member. Take care. Oh, onward. Bye.